Hi, I'm Carolyn Evans-Hammond and welcome to my tasting room. Carolyn's tasting room is where you can taste exciting wines with me. And today we feature a flight of wines for Thanksgiving in a range of styles that won't break the bank. The cost of living is rising. This year's Thanksgiving feast will probably cost more than last year. So here's a chance to save a little money. With 4 wines you can still be proud to pour, and they're all under $11 per bottle. So here's a flight, all from Portugal and all from Bacalhôa. The 2022 JP Azeitao White, the 2022 JP Azeitao Syrah Rosé, the 2022 JP Azeitao Red, and the 2021 Alianca Terra Boa Red. So let's taste. The first wine in our flight is a white, and it's a white I really like because of its versatility. Now this is a kind of wine you can serve with confidence before a meal, serve it on its own cocktail style, or you can serve it with dinner, with turkey, or even with something vegan like a mushroom loaf or a lentil loaf or something like that. It's easy drinking, and it will appeal to everybody from those who like sweeter styles of white, Riesling lovers, as well as people who insist upon bone dry wines. And the reason is this is fruit forward, which we'll find in a minute, but it's also bone dry technically with only 2 grams per liter of residual sugar. So pour yourself a glass and take a look at the color. Color is very pretty, very pale, sort of a pale lemon color, but what's important is that it's clear and bright. So it's not hazy at all, and that means it's stable, and that's the first thing we look for when we're tasting technically. So give it a swirl and a sniff. Isn't that lovely? Oh my goodness. It's aromatic, but it's also really pristine. It smells of white flowers and lemon blossom, pineapple, orange, lovely. Maybe fresh apricot. That is because this is a blend of 2 grape varieties from Portugal called Moscatel de Setúbal and Fernão Pires. And those two grape varieties contribute those aromas beautifully, and I think their aromas are very chiseled. So again, a mark of quality. It's not sort of a single note, inexpensive wine. You've got something going on here. So let's have a taste, let it sweep in, and just experience the wine. Lovely, right? Refreshing, crisp, not too serious. Everything we found on the nose cascades on the palate. And, it's not terribly long, but it's refreshing, it's balanced, it's crisp. Lovely. So now let's just taste it technically. Focus on the tip of the tongue to see if there is residual sugar. We know that there's not, but that's where you would detect it. So have a sip, focus there, and you will notice how dry it is. Isn't that interesting? So the sweetness is actually an expression you experience mid-palate as fruit stuffing, as ripeness. So that's really important. Now have a sip, focus on the sides of the palate to see how much our mouth waters. Notice that? You don't notice it till you focus there, but that's important because that acidity holds up the fruit and it scrapes the palate clean and makes it really refreshing at the table, because you want something quenching. You want that acidity at the table. Lovely, it's gonna offset that gravy. Now we're gonna focus one more thing, and that's a length. Length is important because it bridges to the next bite of whatever you're having, but many wines are not terribly long, especially at this price point. I think this is sort of what we will see. Have a sip. Still there? Still there? Okay, it's done. So what about you? I'm getting sort of my palate is left seasoned with orange zest. So it's not terribly long, but it does season the palate. So you are getting that lovely orange zest, which is slightly bitter orange, which is lovely because there's astringency, lends a little bit of gravitas, and it's going to bridge to the next bite of whatever you're having. So this is it's a versatile wine, it's an easy drinking wine, and it's great for Thanksgiving. And the second wine in our flight is a rosé. Now, rosé is usually associated with summer, but this wine is fantastic this time of year because, there's cranberry in it. It's beautiful, it's bright, it's clean, it's refreshing, and I think it really works well at Thanksgiving. So pour yourself a glass and let's look at the color. Isn't that a pretty color? Sort of a wild salmon color with maybe, paler inflections. It's a kind of wine that would flicker beautifully with candlelight. Maybe you're having a candle on the table. So very lovely, very clear, very bright. And on the nose, isn't that something? I love this because it's pure, but it's not all about primary fruit. You're definitely getting a note of minerality on there. So you're getting the cranberry, but like cranberry is a red berry that has an illusion of earthiness, there's that in the glass. So pretty. Very clean, very bright. Now we do know this is 85% Syrah. It says it's a Syrah rosé, which means by law it must be 85% or more. This one has 15% indigenous grape varieties in it to kind of contribute complexity to the blend and create balance, which I also like. So let's have a taste. Isn't that lovely? It tastes round. Quenching, yes, but round. Really smooth, almost like a sphere in the mouth. So let's take that apart technically. Have a sip, let it stream in, and then focus on the tip of the palate, tip of the tongue to see if it's dry or sweet. Do you notice that? Different than the last one. This has a little bit of residual sugar, something to the tune of 5.5 grams per liter, between 5 and 6. What that does is it just rounds everything out. It doesn't taste sweet when you're just sipping it, but that little kiss of sweetness does something. And what it does at the table is it makes it really food friendly with things like ham, maybe glazed with a sweet sauce, or infused with maple syrup, because the sweetness of the dish will work well with this. Otherwise, the wine without that sugar might taste a bit austere. So have another sip, and we'll focus on the sides of the palate to see the acidity, because there should be a great tension, perfect tension really, between the acidity and the sweetness to create that perfect balance. Higher acidity than the last one. Notice that? Immediately mouth-watering. And that's what makes it, so well balanced. It's just round. You don't notice it until you're focused there. Lots of fruit stuffing. It cascades with everything we found on the nose. You're getting all that red, berried goodness with the earthy, mineral underpinnings. And there is length. I don't know about you, but on the finish for me, it's all cranberry, which is fantastic. So yes, roast turkey. Yes, ham. But it would also work really well with anything like, stuffed mushroom caps, especially if you're using something with a little bit of sweetness in the stuffing. I love this wine, and I think it's fabulous before a meal or with a meal. And the third wine in our flight is the red from the JP Azeitao range. Now this is a wine that I've liked for a long time, and it's actually one of the best-selling red table wines in Portugal. I really like it. Now it's made in the modern style, so it's fruit-driven, and it's a blend of 3 grape varieties. So about a third each of Syrah, Aragonez, which is actually Tempranillo in Spain, and Castelão, which is another indigenous grape variety. So each of those varieties contribute something slightly different to the blend, and you end up with a little bit of complexity. This is stainless steel fermented, so no oak. So we're going to be looking for fresh fruit expression. So pour yourself a glass, notice the color. purpley, sort of purple ruby. And the reason is it's a very youthful wine. This was actually bottled, like finished and bottled and released to market in January of this year. So really fresh wine, which you want for a young wine or you want for a wine that's not terribly expensive, that's meant to be, consumed young and fresh. So where's in the glass, lovely color. Give it a swirl and let's give it a sniff. Oh, isn't that great? I love this. And it always smells like this. So it's like a big crush of black and red fruit, berries. Blueberry, cherry, boysenberry even. Definitely black cherry and plum, maybe damson. It's not terribly jammy though. This smells fresh, like wild fresh fruit. So pretty. Great. So let's have a taste. Isn't that great? Palate drenching. Everything you want a red wine to be at the table. Something that everyone can enjoy. It's not too forward. It's not going to hide all the flavors that are on your plate. It's not too sweet. It's not going to tire the palate. And it's not too dense. And it's also, not too fancy. So it's not going to call attention away from the feast. And yet it's going to take everything up a notch. So let's taste this technically. Let's have a sip, let it sweep in, and focus mid-palate, at the mid-palate stuffing. Concentration is one of the 3 hallmarks of quality, being concentration, complexity, and length. So let's go in order. Grapefruit stuffing. Beautiful. No alcoholic heat at the back of the palate. I think this is 13.5. So it's a full-bodied wine, and yet none of that alcohol is showing through because there's lots of fruit stuffing. Plush. And it's clean, clean, clean. Now, in terms of complexity, have a sip. We'll see if everything we found on the nose is cascading on the palate, fanning out if you like, expressing itself articulately, and maybe it's going to tell us something else too. What do you think? On the palate for me, it's more about black fruit, dark fruit. So blueberry, wild blueberry, like the small blueberries, lovely. And then it switches a little bit to blackberry, but again staying in the black fruit. And then to my palate, as it arcs, that's where it turns to red fruit. And my palate is left seasoned with cranberry, like earthiness, underbrush, a little bit of pink peppercorn maybe. Now this is stainless steel fermented, so there's no wood. This is all fruit expression, but there is some complexity all in the berry world. And I like that, as well as that peppercorn. And on the very finish, it's still there. So there's some length too, a little bit of stoniness. So I like this. I think this is great quality. There is a little bit of residual sugar. Let's focus on the tip of the tongue. This has technically actually 9 grams per liter of sugar, but you don't notice it because it's so well balanced with all the other components. And so all that does is make it really friendly, really accessible. So a lot of people that think, red wine can be too austere, a little too bitter, that will fall away if they're drinking this wine. So versatile at the table, easy to enjoy, complete crowd pleaser, and not terribly expensive. And the fourth wine in our flight is Terra Boa. Now, Terra Boa is a blend of 3 grape varieties: Tinto Roras, another name for Tempranillo; Tinto Nacional, which is the main grape variety or the most important grape variety that goes into port production; and Cabernet Sauvignon, which is of course French and also grown all over the world, including Portugal. So we'll be looking for those elements in the glass. So pour yourself a glass, notice the color. It's not quite as purple as the last one, and that's because this is 1 year old, so we're starting to head a little bit ruby, but it's got great depth of color. And if you swirl it and watch the legs drape down the inside of the glass, which are quite prominent, that's because this is a full-bodied wine at 13.5% alcohol. So a little trick there. Swirl and nose the wine. Isn't that beautiful? Notice cassis. Now, cassis is the hallmark fragrance of Cabernet Sauvignon, especially if these, this is a stainless steel fermented wine, so you're not going to be, the fruit is not hindered or, masked, if you like, by any oak. This is strictly fruit. So that cassis note comes from the Cabernet Sauvignon, classic hallmark aroma. Do you also get sort of poached plum, maybe even raisins or Christmas cake? Dried fruit, that's from the Tinto Nacional, the grape variety for port production. One more sniff, we're going to be looking for blackberry, which should be coming from the Tinto Rores. Absolutely. When you look for them, you see them. That gives you the layering, if you like, of aromas and flavors. That is the charm of blends. Okay. Never shy away from blends, because they're always going to be more interesting than a single variety if done right. So let's have a taste. Sweeps in, definitely more serious tasting than the last wine, a little bit more austere, and that's because it's bone dry. This has 2 grams per liter of residual sugar, so there's not that gloss, if you like, that roundness that you get from the last wine. If you like a wine that's a little bit more old world in style and bone dry, this is your bottle. Still affordable, but absolutely dry. Have another sip, and let's focus on the tip of the tongue just to notice the lack of residual sugar. Get that? And then if you follow through to the mid palate, you're getting the fruit expression, but it's dark berries. So that confected note we found in the cassis, which is, blackcurrant liqueur, and the poached plum from the Tinto Nacional, we're not getting on the palate. It's coming across far more dry. So the fruit is there, but it's dry. And I like that because, it will really work well if you're deciding to, serve something like prime rib and you want a bone dry wine. This is your bottle. There's also a hint of pepper and salinity on the finish, and there's length here. It's still going for me. What about you? Getting that? Acidity upholds the fruit. There's fruit concentration, but it's not too tight-fisted, not too dense. It's an easy drinking table wine. And I think it juxtaposes the last wine beautifully. So there you have it. A flight of great value wines in a variety of styles you can be proud to pour at Thanksgiving. In fact, you can buy all 4 of them for about $40, and that's a deal. So which wine did you like best? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm coming right back with another flight of amazing wines so you can drink better and learn how.